Grab your spears, raise your tomahawks, Seminole fans. You're listening and watching to the Warpath, the weekly collaboration between theosceola.com and warchant.com. My name is Nick Carlisle, staff writer for the Osceola. That is Matt Lasser, recruiting writer for Warchant. Welcome to the show and welcome to Miami Week, ladies and gentlemen. It's the best week of the year when it comes to Florida State football. One of two of the best weeks of the year.
Well, this is the home one, so this is the best week of the year.
So, yeah, whatever rivalry game is the home one, that becomes the best week of the year. And it really is exciting. Florida State on the field, obviously suffering a double overtime loss to Virginia and a night road game on Friday. Looking to get some redemption, looking to get back on the right track against number 3 Miami, who is currently undefeated. You've heard all the talk about the product that's on the field for the current team. Now it's time to talk about the recruiting that is going to be attached to this game. Matt Lasser, by my count, and I'm no mathematician, mathematics guy. I'm not one of those, very clearly. Around 115, maybe a little bit more yet to be announced, but definitely over 100 prospects are going to be showing up to this game. And it's not just any bimbo from the middle of the state. There are a lot of flip targets in both the 2026, 2027 classes coming. And really, at least I think more importantly, because a lot of people like to focus on the 2026s when it comes to this game in terms of, okay, what's the immediate impact that Florida State can get on the recruiting trail for this current class? Make no mistake, this is also, and I would argue more so, about the 2027 class. Matt, the list of 2027 kids that you and I got this morning is downright impressive.
Yeah, I mean, and they've been doing this all year. They've really set a good foundation for this class. And, you know, I'm willing to say this list, I think it is bigger than the Alabama list, probably has some more talent on there.
I think by maybe 20 or so kids, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. And they've been doing well with this model of let's get kids in for the unofficial visits for the big games so we can bring them back later on, or they'll want to come back, right? And especially, it kind of worked out well that a lot of these big games are earlier on in the season, so you still have an avenue to bring kids back if they want to, whether it's for a Pitt game next week or a Wake Forest or a Virginia Tech. This sets the foundation of, hey, man, look at this atmosphere. It's not going to get any better than this, but you can still have time to see it again.
Yeah, and I think it is worth noting there are no official visits this week. Florida State has made the choice to push back and postpone those. There are going to be a couple of official visits next week for the Pitt game. One of them, Matt, you reported on earlier in the week. Jacob Curry, the recent linebacker offer, he has set an official visit to Florida State. He's going to be here next week. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be. What's your, I guess if you're Florida State, are you happy that you're getting in before a lot of those other official visits that he has scheduled, or would have you preferred it to kind of be the last guy in there to get that final word?
I don't think it matters, if we're being honest. It's he's going to Ohio State this weekend, I believe. Was just at Oklahoma. Actually has an RPM pick in favor of the Sooners after that visit a couple weeks ago, and that's right, literally right after they offered him. And so it was kind of, a lot of times when we see that RPM pick, especially from a guy like Wilt Fong, we think it's pretty imminent that it's about to happen. This recruitment's over. That clearly is not the case for Jacob Curry, right? He's still taking multiple other visits. But yeah, I mean, he talked to Michael Langston after getting offered with them that week after, and he said, like, you know, it's never too late. Like, anyone can always have a chance for me for my recruitment. And that's kind of clear the way this recruitment has gone. It's one of those, we always see these at the end of the cycle of when guys are trying to fill spots, these kids shoot up the rankings and they get a lot more attention. He was once committed to Northwestern. He actually camped at Florida State last summer before committing to Northwestern. Just wasn't the right fit at the time, had a pretty packed board when it came to linebackers. And yeah, but now, you know, they're circling back, and he's a Nice guy. I think there's a lot of Florida State ties to Nice, even though everyone thinks about Tim Tebow as their first. He didn't actually go to Nice; he just played at Nice. Right. But it's his very close. I mean, this is a dream offer for him. I don't know if he has a UF offer. I would have to check that, but Florida State is a dream offer for him, and obviously they quickly got on the visit schedule and within 2 weeks after the offer for this Pitt game next week. Norvell, literally the day they offered him, Norvell was at his game. And then he called his dad the next day or right after the game. So they're getting in this one quick and pushing hard very quick. And again, still have a chance to have that first 2 blue chip linebacker class since 2019 when it was Kalen DeLoach and Jaleel McRae. I think Florida State has a good shot here despite that RPM pick, especially, if he's still taking visits, this thing is still wide open to me. I don't see a reason why you shouldn't think that.
Hey, you talked about the loaded linebacker board that Florida State had a couple of summers ago. Florida State already has their Karan Maycock is not a blue chip, I think, on the Rivals on 3 rankings at this point.
No, but I think every coaching staff in America sees him as one of the top linebackers in the class.
I do too. Right. So, yeah. But you got Isaiah Williams, you've got Noah LaValle, you've got Karan Maycock. Florida State does have a very robust linebacker class right now. Clearly, if they're recruiting him and they're having him on an official visit, they feel like they can add more to that class. So, maybe there is some real momentum there despite that RPM. And I'm sure that he's going to go through all of his visits and do his due diligence. But that is going to be a big visit. And there's a couple of other linebackers that potentially we could see in town soon. It looks like maybe linebacker becoming more of a focus, especially with maybe things quieting a little bit with DQ Forkba. That is kind of where this is going, to where you're going to have a guy like Curry come in. And this is what you said, the first visit since last summer, something along those lines. So it's been
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, but they were never serious on him, right? He camped and he never offered. So this is the first time you're really seeing them become serious. And he's become a big time prospect with Ohio State, Oklahoma, all these big schools, but none of them have the close to home factor that Florida State has. I think that could be a huge, huge thing in my opinion. It's it's kind of fun to watch. And also, like you said, other linebackers, Dalen Green, he listed as a safety, but Arkansas hasn't decommitted from Arkansas at this point. I mean, look, when you lose a coaching staff, I would be surprised to see a guy going that far away from home stick to that class, because it plays a huge part. They already fired the defensive staff. Bobby Petrino thinks he's the head coach already, but it's yeah, that's one I think we could see show up for the Pitt game as well. So it's that's nothing finalized, but I've heard that could be a tie where he shows up. And if Florida State pushes there, I know you agree with me on this. They kind of slowed rolled them, but if Florida State were to push there, that's an easy get. Yeah, agreed.
I'm curious to know just how much Florida State wants Dalen Green, because he obviously took a junior day visit and he was really high on them, and he was kind of a more under the radar prospect, but obviously extremely productive at Gadsden County, extremely productive. And he's definitely a guy that I think would thrive in this Tony White defense in the essence that he is not afraid to put a helmet on a helmet. He is not scared to hit people. And just physically, when you see him walk up, he's a very physically developed kid.
He's filled out a lot over the last year when they first started recruiting him. It all led up to that elite camp where he had come for the spring too, multiple times in the spring. He's been around here a lot. Not recently since he committed to Arkansas. I think he came once after that, and it was for a 7-on-7 camp. So that's not like his choice to come. That was his team was coming to play, like Gaston always does. But, Coach Devin Rispus has stayed in that one. That's a Gaston County connection, as he's from there and used to work there as well. And same with Corey Fuller. I don't know how much Corey Fuller's been in contact with him, but that's just a Gaston County connection. And in general, again, if Florida State pushes, they can have this one. There's no doubt about that.
I honestly, I would say if he shows up for the Pitt game, I would be ready to put a bow around it and call it what it is. Because, I mean, you talked about the elite camp. I want to be careful.
That's when they started pushing. That's when they actually started pushing.
But I want to be careful about how I say this, because it was more of an overheard conversation between, I forget, it was with Dalen and it was with a couple of assistant coaches, where I think they made it clear to him in that moment, okay, we want you, let's make you a Seminole. And it seemed like the energy was.
And they scheduled the official visit for 2 weeks later, because he already had Arkansas scheduled the next week, and then he committed to Arkansas, and that was that.
Right. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, and this is kind of always the case when you slow play a kid and then you come on
fair,
strongly there.
That's a kid you kind of have to slow play just because you grew up. When a kid grows up an FSU fan and is so high on the Seminoles, you want to make sure you're not really sure where he stacks on your board at the time. You want to make sure you take your time on it, because because that's one of those that you offer right away, he's probably going to want to commit right away. So it's just that dynamic.
Yeah. interesting musical chairs. I think.
Yeah.
Would you say that Dalen Green is probably more realistic than Jacob Curry, even though Jacob Curry and Florida State have picked up a lot of momentum recently? Because Curry's going to be taking all of those visits. Dalen Green hasn't committed to Arkansas yet. I mean, there could be a chance. I know we're hearing that he could show up on campus for a game soon. There could be a chance where he says, hey, Arkansas is still the program that took a chance on me first. Yeah, the defensive coordinator's not here. Yeah, the coach. Like, there. Sometimes it happens. Like, sometimes kids skip.
No, it does. But again, this is just all if Florida State wants him. That's it. Yeah. That's all I think it is. And I really like for the kid, because he's a really good kid.
Yeah.
Kind of a quiet kid, but grew up an FSU fan. Like, it would be his dream to be able to come here. Legit, like, we say that a lot and people hate that. Like, oh, you put the dream school tag. This is a kid that like legitimately would like love to go to Florida State.
He would have committed in January if they let him. That's
Agreed.
what I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
agreed.
It's one of those types of situations. And we're kind of jumping around on the show order a little bit here. Matt kind of jumped ahead.
My bad. Hey, it
But,
was next on the list. I could have jumped way more ahead.
It was. Another Arkansas decommit. Maybe Florida State would be interested in circling back around his offensive tackle, Ben Mubenga, who took an official visit to Florida State over the summer. He was there in the spring as well, if I remember correctly. A very big body, a very big dominating offensive tackle body that had a relationship with Herb Hand. NC State was another program that was extremely involved there with Mubenga before he committed to Arkansas. I'm wondering where he is on the board and where
another one we got to see, right? Offensive tackle's been weird because we thought they were going to push hard for Johnny Jones. We thought that was the guy. They need one more. That right? I think that's universally known that they probably need to get one more.
Well, has he played? Sorry to interrupt. Has he played? Because
I don't know. I know.
Whenever we saw him, he had his leg up on a scooter, and it didn't look. And it looked like that was in.
But June. It was in a boot, though, right? It wasn't in a cast. It was a boot.
It was a boot, but he was still on a scooter. So I'm not actually sure what the injury was. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't.
Asked him or not.
I don't know. I assume he's played. I can check and ask, but it's. Yeah, I mean, again, that's one. Florida State, from what I've heard, because it's gone a little bit back and forth. I don't think Florida State had reached out to him, but I know he had reached out to Herb Hand trying to reignite things pretty recently within the last week. I don't know how that went. Sam Spiegelman's article when he officially decommitted, again, had heard that was coming. Another one, coaches gone. Pretty obvious it's coming. But it's in Sam Spiegelman's article when he officially decommitted, he did say there had been contact with Florida State. So I assume that means there's been some sort of back and forth there with him and Herb Hand. And you got to see, that's another one that I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up next week.
Well, you also have the Dowdy kid as well that they're picking up communication with. You're going to have Aaron Thomas on campus this week, which I know that you're very happy.
I'm happy. I'm very happy to see him on campus. Yes. I think that's a good one. And I think it'd be, if you can get a legacy in the boat, especially a flip from Ohio State, that's a really big deal.
Well, you have the chance to get a couple legacy guys that are currently committed to Ohio State in the boat. And this is kind of the lead of the show. This is the big talking point heading into the recruiting weekend with Miami, is that Corbin Forom, who's obviously the son of Todd Fordham, 3-star tight end, realistically probably could be rated higher. I think he's a tremendous prospect.
And he used to be. He was rated higher at one point, right? I mean, I think these rankings are based off of.
Was it the Rivals on 3 merger that brought him back down? Like what?
I think he was already starting to get brought back down before that. But he was at one point when he committed to Ohio State. He was a 4-star.
Yeah,
like he was a pretty highly regarded 4-star, if I remember correctly. And it just he committed to Ohio State, and he's a quiet kid too, so it kind of disappeared into the abyss until this past week. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. No, I and we had been hurting back when I was working with Rivals more intently. We had heard he had been moving more towards Ohio State, and so it wasn't really a surprise at that time when he pulled the trigger for the Buckeyes, especially coming off a national championship. But that was one that I remember. It was kind of like, well, how much is this legacy thing going to come into play? Is he going to keep showing back on campus despite being committed to the Buckeyes? There was a will he, won't we? And ultimately the answer is no, he's going to lock in with the Buckeyes. I don't think he went on any other official visits apart from the Buckeyes.
No, he didn't. He really hasn't been.
So he was locked in
here, but a little bit, but nothing since he committed, but not much.
Yeah. Well, Fordham RPM pick to Florida, to flip to Florida State by Wiltfong. He's visiting this weekend for the Miami game, as we said. Legacy prospect. Perhaps the heartstrings and the distance pulling Ford him back. And obviously, it kind of goes without saying, but Florida State looking like it has a pulse offensively also has a lot to do with this.
Yeah, and I think we've always thought they wanted to take two tight ends. That's always been most classes they wanted to take two tight ends. It's like quarterback where it's pretty hard to be able to take two at that position because there's not many spots where there's more than one on the field at a time. Now, Florida State's offense is a little different when it comes to that. They do run a lot of multiple tight end sets, and you've seen that with Landon Thomas, Randy Pittman, and Amari Williams all getting decent playing time, and Chase Lofton, even though he's hurt now. But
3 tight end sets apparently if it's 4th and 1, but we won't rehash that.
I wasn't going to get into that. But I have heard a lot of complaining on the beat from that this week.
Yes, I hated that play call. Oh my God. Gus was smelling himself a little bit there.
I didn't get to watch a lot of the game, so I didn't notice those little things. So I was, as far as I'm concerned, the Noles are still 3-0, and we're riding high into the Miami game.
Just blip it off the radar. That never happened.
Never happened. Not to me. It didn't. But yeah, Corbin. I also on the Letterman Row boards, I was looking to see what they were saying as well, and they reported that there was a monetary push from Florida State, and that's been a big deal of it. But like also the heartstrings, like I think it all combines into one. Whenever we say FSU's making a push, there's always going to be some money backing to that in some sense,
for sure.
Right? That's what that means. Like that's just in general. So that's not a surprising thing to hear. But it's a legacy prospect. They've always been very high on him. It's just been kind of quiet because I think that's how the kid is. But yeah, I texted people around the recruitment and found out he was visiting shortly after the RPM pick went in, and that seems to be the icing on the cake for me, right? Like if he's visiting, all those picks, all this is already trending that way. Him visiting, kind of Hayes Fawcett put out a planting the spear gif, which last time nothing came of that, but this one seems to all line up, right? So I think this one will probably pop this weekend.
Yeah, I think there's a very good bet of that as well. And I think logistically it also makes sense because if you want to think about some of the other tight end targets that you're in on or maybe potentially looking to flip.
Like what, the next one's probably Hesse Kent?
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going with that. And I mean, there's just, I don't want to call it baggage because that's not the right word, but there is the whole, we're going to take you as a tight end, but you're probably an offensive tackle type thing.
Which he doesn't like.
Which he hates. And I know that Florida State was going to, acquiesce and say, yeah, sure, you're a tight end. You've got it, buddy.
And you have the biscuit sense. Like that helps you.
Right. Sure. But I think if you're looking at a true tight end in terms of what they actually want a tight end to look like in this offense, it's going to look more like a Corbin Forom, who good size, good length, very good hands.
Athletic, more leaning towards receiver than tight end, or like a true tight end, right? Like Randy Pittman.
And teacher's pet, I think, is also a good way to describe him too. And I don't mean that in like a negative sense. I remember him going to like a spring practice. He's coachable. He was literally attuned with Chris Thompson at the hip. He followed him around the entire way. Some guys, when you come to practices, they kind of just show up. They take everything in, maybe go on their phones a little bit.
Well, if they go on their phone, Norvell will normally yell at them.
Yes.
Which is really fun. It's always fun to watch.
For us. Entertaining for us, for sure. But to the point, Forbin walking with the tight ends, listening to Thompson coach. There's a good relationship there. There shows intent. There shows maturity. There shows the ability to learn and the ability to be coached. So that's going to be interesting to see if he pops this weekend and, Florida State could put on a good result on the football field, pull out a win. I mean, we all know that atmosphere is going to be absolutely electric on Saturday, no matter what, but that's definitely going to be an interesting one to watch. Circling back through here, we did talk about official visits that had been set to the pit week. The other one was Chris Corbin, who was originally going to officially visit this weekend. At least that was the reporting. Now it is going to be officially on that pit weekend. I think you and I both still feel really good about that. I know Georgia Tech is having a great season, but Florida State really is making a push there. I think that there is a very decent chance that if Florida State is able to continue momentum, that they're able to pull that one off too. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, unless you get in with some bigger time edge rushers. If he continues to be the one you push the hardest for, I think you'll see it happen. To put in perspective, I don't know how many times he's visited Georgia Tech this season. I assume he has at least once. I would have to look at that, but he visited Florida State the second he could, right? Because there was that dead period until the Alabama game, and the second he could, he visited Florida State, and he got offered during that dead period. So I think that showed a lot, and it also showed that he wanted to get back on campus really quickly too. If Florida State pushes, this is another one I think they can get it pretty easily.
Before we get into anything else, I couldn't help but notice, Matt, while you were talking, that you've got a little stubble going on, and I don't know if
it's been a stressful week.
Yeah, I mean,
haven't had time to shave.
It's just been working wire to wire. But I mean, hey, you got to shave eventually, right? You got to shave eventually. Which brings up the sponsor for the Warpath, in Dollar Shave Club. When you rep your team, Matt reps his team all the time. If he's not wearing a Texas shirt or anything related to being from the state of Texas, he's usually repping some Florida State merch. But when you rep your team, you don't stop with the jersey either. Dollar Shave Club's collegiate razor handles combine grooming with glory, letting students, grads, and fans show their school spirit and style from the sink to the stadium. Shave with school pride. Visit dollarshaveclub.com to grab your college handle today. Go Seminoles. Thank you so much, Dollar Shave Club, for sponsoring the Warpath. And for giving guys that can't grow beards like Matt something nice to shave their face with.
Mine always ends up like too puby for me. Like,
yes.
I just don't like the way it looks. That's the only way I can describe it.
I feel if you dedicated to it, I mean, we're turning this into a facial hair podcast. I feel like if you dedicated it, you could definitely get like the mustache and like goatee look. I could see you working with like a cowboy hat and some boots on, like go full Texan.
I feel like is that like a Warchant rite of passage? Is the goatee mustache look? Like Ira has it, Corey has it, Tom has it. Like it might be like a rite of passage to work.
You're not actually a Warchant employee until you rock a goatee and a stash.
We might need to make you shave the rest of the beard just for the show so you fit in with everybody else.
Yeah, let me drop 25 pounds before we do that because I need to keep the chin strap. Well, also not a full-time Warchant employee until January. So maybe
I'm just saying. So we got to do half.
I mean,
I don't know
how would I make this half? How would I make this half?
I don't know.
Halfway.
Go straight down the middle.
Oh my God. Oh, that would be horrible. That'd be actually horrible. I don't know. Leave your comments in the comment section. Do you think if you're looking at Matt right now, tell me that you can't see him with like a cowboy hat with like a chin strap and like a cigar or cigarette sticking out of the side of his mouth? Tell me you can't see it with like some cowboy boots. I don't know.
My Tacos.
Let's get to the stuff that people actually want to listen to, shall we? The Florida State Miami visitors list. We've talked to that a little bit already.
We've talked about it with Corbin, but I do, with the first one we'll talk about, at least the first one I've highlighted, I don't know where you were going, but I think I owe you an apology on the Carson Baker, Derek Cooper debate. And I will say that you were officially right. I started trending that way a couple weeks ago and going towards the Carson Baker, but I think you were right from the start. I just got to give you your props.
Oh, thank you. Man, that feels so good. I was not expecting that. Thank you, Matt Lasser. God, even a blind squirrel finds a nut twice a day, you know. But yeah, I wasn't going to go specifically to Carson Baker. I was kind of just going to go through and talk about the list in general. We've brought it up already. A really, really nice list of 2027. And I want to go to the underclassmen before we go to the 2026s, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But just taking a look at this 2027 guys that are going to be in town. Gregory Batson, who is a 4-star linebacker at Lee County High School. He's got an RPM pick in for Florida State.
Yeah, that's another one that could pop this weekend, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Said after the Alabama game, Florida State was the leader. Would take a lot to change that. Let's see if Florida State can continue that momentum there. I mean, he's a really awesome prospect. And then you got guys like Jaden Bryan, who's a 4-star defensive end out of Irmo, in South Carolina. Jackson Dollar, 4-star tight end who I saw a couple of times over the summer and with spring camps. So that is a really nice prospect, Matt. I don't know if I would equate him to somebody like a Caden Prothrow. I think Caden Prothrow is a better, also Prothrow is like a wide receiver, like a pure wide receiver, tight end.
Yeah, he's
going to play wide receiver. But and Dollar, I think, is a couple of inches shorter, but he's got that same like ball hawking skill set to him where he's able to just go up and find the football. So that is one that I think that Florida State has done a good job with early. It's really encouraging to see him back on campus. I lost my place. No, never mind. I found it. Jamari Foreman, who obviously recently committed to Florida State, committed back. Yeah. KJ Green, who's a 4-star defensive end. He came to a game last year, I think roughly around the same time. So it's been over a year since KJ Green has been on campus. If my memory serves correctly, you're getting him back at a Stevenson High School in Georgia. Obviously, if you're going year to year in terms of the time of the times that this guy's on campus, you're going to want to make a good impression this weekend. I think this is a very SEC heavy recruitment right now. Florida State needs a good result, I think, to really start moving things in a good motion with KJ there. Caden Henderson has been on campus more times than I've been on campus in my life, and I went to school here. So,
yeah, that's one that's also leaning Florida State pretty heavily, right? And because he grew up in Florida, the Dream School comments again that people are going to hate, but he grew up an FSU fan and has always loved FSU. And he's looked everywhere. Like he's been to Oregon. Because he's going to be the top linebacker in the class, probably a top 10 prospect in the class overall.
Yeah, a 5-star eventually, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it's still always been a heavy Florida State lead until anything changes.
George Lamons Jr.
You're forgetting my favorite one. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
I was going to say, keep it together. Keep it together, Matt. Matt's favorite 2027 prospect.
As long as he keeps coming on campus, that's a Florida State lead as well. Like he's been here more than anywhere else at this point. So, and he's another kid who grew up a Florida State fan and absolutely loves Florida State. So there's no surprises there to keep him coming.
Sam Lejeune, he's been on campus. I think he came for a junior day visit. Definitely,
and he was at a camp
as well.
Yeah.
And I think there were a lot of positive conversations with Florida State and Lejeune there, and he is going through his recruiting process. But that's a name that I think. It's an out-of-state kid. I think he's a Louisiana kid, if I remember correctly. So maybe a tough pull, but Florida State has done well there early. Jaden Miles, 4-star running back out of Catholic High School, another Louisiana kid. Amari Nugent, 4-star defensive back, the American Heritage Connection, running strong there with Amari. He's been on campus.
Mississippi on Sam Lejeune. Sorry to
Mississippi.
Interrupt you.
Okay,
Mississippi.
No. Hey. I'm all for the correcting. Rashad Streets, a 4-star edge rusher out of South Carolina. He was on campus in January. I believe
he's been high on Florida State for a long time.
This is going to be his first time back. Sean Tatum, another 4-star offensive lineman that goes to John Carroll Catholic High School. He was also on campus in January. So you're getting a lot of the kids that you had on campus at some point, whether it was in the spring or whether it was in January. A lot of these big names that are going to be in the 2027 class, you're getting them in here for this Miami game. And Sean Tatum is one that's already named Florida State among, I think his top 5 or top 6 schools or something like that. So I imagine with Sean, it's going to be one of those Florida Classicos between the Gators, the Hurricanes, and Florida State. You're going to have your prized defensive back commitments in the 2027 class, Bryce Williams and Mekhi Williams back on campus. Amari Vickerson, who we've talked about on the show before, has a great relationship with Terrence Knighton. Vickerson's father and Knighton played together in the NFL. That's good. I still feel like that's one to watch. That's maybe a little bit under the radar. It's going to depend on in terms of I think down the road, and we're talking big picture down the road here, how much Florida State actually wants Vickerson.
You would think that Knighton's probably going to push pretty hard for him, though, right? And that's probably
I would imagine so, but
yeah.
As Justin Wells said last week, you can't speak with any certainty.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I lost my place again. There we go. Oh, we're back.
Such a long list.
Genuinely. Now you and I have seen a lot of long lists in our time. This
might be the longest.
It's a very long list, and it's a very thick list. Do you know what I mean?
It's not just like you said when we interviewed D-Ray a couple weeks ago. It's not just ringing the dinner bell and bringing everyone in.
Yeah.
These are all, for the most part, these are all talented kids, and if they're not, it's they're super young, right? There's some kids who don't have profiles, but they're 2028, 2029 kids. And that's showing that if they're bringing them on campus now, they're probably going to be pretty talented prospects. You're not just letting anybody into this game.
Yeah, it's a huge recruiting weekend for Florida State. Before we get into a segment that I was going to surprise Matt with, we do need to thank our sponsor, My Perfect Franchise, and Andy Ludicky, who, look, if you're ready to leave the corporate rat race and you want to diversify, build your wealth, or leave your personal legacy, or, if you want a job, or if you want a job, if you have a job and you want a side hustle, Andy Ludicky can help you. He is a franchise consultant as well as a franchise owner, and he helps people find franchises that fit their passions, their financial requirements, and most importantly, I think their skill sets. You want to be in the right place. You want to be doing things that suit you. Andy's services are 100% free. He's here to help you if you have any questions about business ownership, and he's a rabid college football fan, so that's a good way to get into some good conversation with Andy. You can head to myperfectfranchise.net to learn more, or you can text or call Andy at 404-973-9901. That information should be on your screen now, but in case you're an audio listener, again, you can reach Andy at 404-973-9901. Thank you so much, Andy, and My Perfect Franchise for sponsoring the Warpath. Okay, so to wrap up the show today, and I didn't tell Matt that we were going to do this. We're coining this on the spot. We're coining this segment on the spot. We're going to call it For the Show or For the Noles. And we're going to go through all of the 2026 guys coming on campus this weekend that are flip targets for Florida State. And I'm going to ask Matt, do you think they're here for the Noles, or do you think you're here for the show? Because Florida State Miami is a show. It is every year. No matter how bad Florida State is, no matter how good Florida State is, no matter how bad Miami is, no matter how good Miami is, Florida State Miami is a show. And you're going to have kids, especially in-state kids, coming to this game to watch the game. But not all unofficial visits are created equal, Matt Lasser. Sometimes you're coming because you're genuinely interested and you're considering Florida State. Sometimes you're coming just for the atmosphere and for that game. So I thought we should go through the list, run through it.
So for example, we think Yates was for the show a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Okay. And for context for everyone, that's because he's friends with Mario Nash and they're another running.
In case you missed last week's episode, correct?
Yeah.
But some of these, I imagine, we're gonna lie in the gray area a little bit because I think a lot of them, little bit of both,
because we don't really know yet, right? On a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is like we'll see what we talked about after the game.
It's going to be interesting. We'll just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. Carson Baker, 4-star running back, Florida commit. Is he here for the Noles, or is he here for the show?
I think he's here for the Noles. That's one. Again, we've debated this a lot, and I gave you your kudos. I think this is your number one running back on the
board.
Bring
it on right? again.
I think this is your number one running back on the board, and I think it's started to trend this way last few weeks. If you could have gotten Derek Cooper, he would have been number one, but it seems like that.
Sorry to interrupt you. Derek Cooper not going to be here this weekend.
Yeah, it was never set in stone. We always heard it was in the works, but I think that Texas official visit, like we talked to Justin Wells last week, I think that Texas official visit kind of put that to bed a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see if there is a chance that he shows up on somebody's campus at some point. I don't think it's over by any means, but Florida State unable to get him on campus this weekend for a big rivalry game, so that should make Texas fans a little bit more comfortable. Let's say that much. So continue.
If I were a Texas fan, I would be very comfortable in that we're getting Derek Cooper to sign the dotted line in a few months. In a few months. So, but
money makes people do crazy things.
That's true. But I think Carson Baker is actually here for the Noles. They led at one point in this recruitment. It was always close with Florida. I'm kind of skeptical of how close they were with him right when he committed there, when he said it was neck and neck, and then went to UF the next day and committed. But it's with the way UF season is gone, he has to have his options open, right? And Florida State seems like the most likely with no running backs in the class and a place that you really liked, had a close relationship with Coach Yak. I think this is what I said when on the Inside Scoop with Josh Newberg the other day, that he wasn't on the visit list yet. Now he's on the visit list as of this morning is when we found out and reported that. Right. But it's or Thursday morning, and I even said, I was like, that's one that I have no info on whether he's coming or not, but I have a feeling that he's going to show up because this is the game that someone like that would show up to or should show up to. And my intuition and feeling was right. So it's a
round of applause for Matt Lasser. We give love all around here on the Warpath.
That one's definitely for the Noles. There's no debate on that.
Corbin Forom, we've already talked about. We think this is very much for the Noles, and we think that with the RPM pick in, that Florida State is trending there, and there is a very good chance that he is a Seminole by the end of the weekend. Never a guarantee, but it's very positive trending for Corbin Forom. Caden Hall, 4-star safety, Florida commit.
For the Noles, that's one they've been working on for a few weeks now. They were actually trying to get him on campus for the Kent State game, so it's that's one they did want. And he was deciding over between going to Gainesville this weekend for the Texas game or going to the Florida State Miami game. Obviously, he chose the Florida State Miami game, and he grew up an FSU fan. So that could make you think it's for the show, but the way this has been in the works for weeks and the way he's been really trying to decide over it, that one's definitely for the Noles, and he would be perfect for that rover spot. A lot of people think he'd grow into a linebacker, but I think that's the whole point of that rover position is for that kind of person.
Yeah. I want to say that it's for the Noles, but I think there's also a degree of, what's going to be the better football game? It's going to be Miami, Florida State. I can't imagine.
Well, obviously.
I can't imagine that Texas and Florida is going to be a barn burner unless Arch Manning and DJ Lagway try to out-ass each other on the football field, which, hey, maybe that may be entertaining in its own right. But I do think there's a bit of it that's for the Noles here. Jaron Hooley, who...
Yeah, I don't know.
We saw that name on the list this morning, and we're like, what? I feel like that's for the show. People are going to see a 3-star quarterback, and I know that there's probably a good portion of the Seminoles fan base that see Jaron Hooley, watch his tape and say, this guy might be a better fit for Gus's offense than Jaden O'Neal is. But I just don't think I've never felt like they're recruiting him primarily at quarterback. It's always been an athlete thing. I feel like this is for the show. Obviously, he's committed to West Virginia at the moment. I don't feel like he's
a good thing. It's a good thing to keep warm just in case anything happens with Jaden O'Neal, right? Just in case. But yeah, I was very surprised to see this one. And it is one of those that, like, look, we could talk to him after the visit and we are completely surprised and thrown off and we're completely wrong. Like that This is one of those that could happen. But I don't see much traction happening here.
This is an interesting one. LA, Laziah Jackson, 4-star safety, Stanford commit. For the show, for the Noles.
I think this one's a gray area because we don't.
I agree.
The DB board is packed. Like it's now. This is still a guy you take, but we said that with Caden Hall too. Like, where do you stop, right? And again, he's a top 100 guy, so you probably still take him. But do you keep the whole class, or does someone get dropped? What happens? Is this where we're going to Hughes might be dropping out of the class because he's still flirting other places? Is that where you go with this, even though he's not a safety, so it's not the exact same position?
Oh, no, I think Hughes is a safety. I know they like him at corner, but I think that he grows into a safety.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. It's not the exact same position. So it's just kind of – that's the one where I want to see where the rest of the DB class goes. Like, I just want to see what happens because they've had a lot of these kids locked in for over a year now.
Well, also, how big would Surtain want this class to be, and how big would Evan Cooper want this class to be? Because don't forget about Sean Johnson either. I mean, that is a guy
good. There's one they're very high on too.
And yeah, they like what they have in him. I guess you think about it, that big defensive back class was 2 years ago, 2 cycles.
And then you could see some people transferring out this year if they don't like it. So that opens up a lot of spots too, right? So I guess maybe it's also you need to look at the roster as well. Yeah,
like I don't know. I feel like you could see somebody like a track star, like a Jamari Howard, taking a ticket out of here, not because he doesn't like Florida State, and this is pure speculation, of course, but obviously that injury set him back quite a bit. Yeah. Now you've got a lot of guys coming in like Shamar Arnaud that is already on that 2 deep. And has played well in the snaps that he's gotten. So,
and Howard got hurt again during camp too. So like he's had injury problems. It's not just the one.
There's a numbers game that's being played here. I think this is.
Now again, Laziah Jackson, you take by all means.
Absolutely, and I think that he's a very genuine kid. He's very thoughtful and intelligent when you speak to him. He's one of my favorite interviews in multiple times that I've talked to.
He's the most mature recruit we've ever talked to. It's not close.
Solomon Thomas is pretty close.
Solomon Thomas too. But
almost he was almost too truthful sometimes.
And Jalen Wiggins was always good. But and also, people are going to look at Lashia Jackson like, oh, he's committed to Stanford. We can easily get him. Lashia is such an academically driven kid and he really likes Stanford. Again, he committed there without a coach, essentially. That's where we're at with Stanford commits. So it's like, and also I wonder, that class is weird to me. I don't understand why you would commit to a school without a coach. Now, if you're academically driven at a place like Stanford, it makes sense. But they could hire a coach who doesn't like the way Lashia plays or doesn't fit into the scheme well at all, and Lashia is looking at other options.
Right.
Last second. So that's one that I'm very excited to speak to after the game.
Johnny Jones, a 4-star offensive tackle.
I think he's here for the Noles. I think that, right? Because I think he would like to be a part of this class, but it just depends on how much the Noles want him. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. Well,
because we thought he was going to come on campus earlier.
Beggars can't be choosers, and there's a degree where it's like, I feel like you want to see what you can get out of this visit with Aaron Thomas before you bark down the tree of Johnny Jones. Not because they wouldn't take Johnny, but I think Aaron Thomas is a better prospect. I think
you can pull at the heartstrings a little bit there and being a legacy.
Well, yeah, and I think it's very clear that Johnny is having a full recruitment ahead of him. I mean, this is basically a second recruitment for Jones, so the competition is a little bit thicker there. Definitely, by all means, you try. Like, you put your best foot forward, and you get as far as you can. You keep that warm as possible. But I think he's there for the Noles. He's been trying to get on campus since the beginning of the season. It's just just in terms of the broader recruitment, it's a little bit murky in terms of
he's swiped right on the Noles on Tinder, but doesn't know if the Noles swiped right on him yet. He's waiting on the match.
He's waiting on the Tinder match. There's like one reference on the show a week where it's just like it's got to go over people's heads. we had the 6'7". We had something last week.
Someone called it cringe last week.
Yeah.
Someone called that chalkboard cringe last week. I do read the comments.
Yes. Which there was a really good comment, and I forget who said it. Somebody said something along the lines of, "Does it ever get tiring for you guys to be doing all this work?
Yeah, I did see that.
And then just having kids change their mind at the drop of a hat?" The answer, yes. Yes, it does.
It does, but you get used to it. That's the way this business is. That's the way it always will be and always has been, even with the change of college football. That's the way recruiting is.
Yeah. Xavier Larice, 4-star defensive back, Oregon commit. This has got to be for the show, right?
He did grow up an FSU fan.
Well, which is why I feel like
he hasn't been back.
The show.
He hasn't been back in a while, and if you have a choice between two DBs of the last one you got to take, and it's Lashia Jackson or Xavier, you're taking Lashia Jackson.
I don't totally agree. I agree. I think that if you have a pairing of a Chuck Kennan and Xavier Larice as two like really agile, athletic cornerbacks, you've got a good number of safeties. And granted, Florida State does need safeties. I think I would take Lashia Jackson, but I don't think it's if I'm choosing one, I don't think it's an easy decision. I'm
not saying it's an easy decision. I'm just saying I would take Jackson.
Well, in any event, I think it's for the show. I mean, he's shut down with Oregon, and he did grow up a Florida State fan, and
it's kind of coming out of nowhere. So
I feel like this is for the show. This is a recruitment that Florida State pretty much botched. Let me rephrase that. I think it's the last staff that kind of botched the recruitment, and this current iteration of the staff tried to get back in it, but it was too late to form any real momentum. Obviously, he had that spring visit that went really well, but they just didn't get the momentum there when they needed to. So I feel like he's close by. This is the best game this weekend. Yeah. I don't care what college game day says. This is the best game this weekend. I think he's here for the show.
It is, but yeah, I think I side with you a little bit on that. But if you can gain some momentum here, you're going to take it. As you said, this wasn't a new staff problem. It was more with the old staff, and he wasn't as highly ranked. He wasn't as highly regarded as he was. And also, I'd say this on the show probably every week now. He's committed to Oregon and the kids from Florida. I get the cool uniforms. I get everything. But this is that time of year where kids start to look like, oh, it's a little farther than I realized. Like mom and dad have to take a couple. I don't think you can get much farther. No, you can get to Washington, but like that's probably the only farthest point you can get from where he's at, right?
All right. Well, not as far as some, but that's still pretty far.
Yeah.
I'm just going to package these two together because I think the answer is the same. Jarius Rogers and Cameron Wilson, the Syracuse defensive end commits.
For the Noles. For sure, for the Noles. Cam Wilson, for sure. Jarius Rogers, quiet, but I think so too. Jarius Rogers is the one again where you wonder if the Noles are for him back now that they're kind of in on these other edge rushers. But it's definitely for the Noles there because Cam Wilson's been trying to get on campus for a long time. And I would love to see that spark that he had when he first visited a while back when people were putting in picks for him to come to Florida State. And then he went to Syracuse to get reignited. And I think that would be huge.
Aaron Thomas, 4-star offensive tackle committed to Ohio State. Trying to keep it together, Matt.
So I like Aaron Thomas. I hope this one is for the Noles because they need it. We have yet to see where they're really going to push. Aaron Thomas has been very quiet in his recruitment of trying to, like he says he's locked in with Ohio State. And if you're a kid, you should be locked in with Ohio State. They're defending national champions, #1 in the country. Like, why wouldn't you want to go there? The thing is, he's a Florida State legacy. He grew up an FSU fan. They need to keep showing him how much they want him because they also were late in this recruitment and they've been playing catch up the whole time. At this point, have they passed Texas A&M for that second spot? Probably. Right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. But they're still playing catch up to Ohio State, and I think you need to show him he's your #1 tackle on the board right now. And like they need to go one way at the offensive tackle position and show where they're thinking because it's been kind of tough to see where. I don't think they even know like where they're going to push yet, and I would.
Yeah,
hope
I feel like there's a lot of feelers that are being floated this weekend.
And you kind of see what responses you get back.
Yeah, and then you gauge that response, and then you kind of put more of your NIL chips in the basket and see what you can get done. Amari Thomas, 4-star running back, South Carolina commit.
I'm going for the show on this one with Carson Baker there. I don't think there's much to be said there. I just think again he's a local kid, and let's see if he shows up on campus too, because there's been a couple times where he's been on the list and hasn't made it to the game, which is fine. Stuff happens. These are 17, 16-year-old kids, their schedule, things pop up. It happens all the time. It's not a huge deal, but it's I'm interested to see if he shows up and then what the response is when he does show up, because I have a hard time.
There's a lot of fans that are out on Amari Thomas. The discourse on social media is not very kind to the kid.
Which I don't think is right. It's a kid,
I
right?
don't think it's fair. No.
I don't think it's fair to the kid because I do think if Florida State shows him something, I don't think money's that big of a factor for him. I don't. I think people think it is, but I don't think it's as big of a factor as people make. Like if Florida State showed something and the relationships were there to give a discount, and he does a really good relationship with Yak, I think he would. But it's with Carson Baker there, I think that's again your #1 priority.
I mean, he committed off of a 2-10 season. I mean, there are people are so quick to forget sometimes that.
Yeah, he's a good kid. I really like Amari Thomas, and I think he'll do well wherever he goes. Hopefully this. I mean, we've seen him do it before. Last second, pull some strings, and they have the best running back. If they had Amari Thomas, I don't know what the rest of the country looks like in terms of running back classes off the top of my head, but if you got Amari Thomas and Carson Baker, are you safely saying that's the best running back class in the country?
Yes.
At the very least, top 5. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I'm thinking Georgia.
Yeah, because they have Jay.
They've got Jay. Notre Dame. I can't think of like too many maybe you can look
that
at
have
this.
2.
Well, that have 2. A lot of guys just have 1. So maybe you can look that up in the background while we move on here. We don't have that many, actually. We have 1 more. So if you want to do a quick Google search and see what's up there. Last one here. At least I think this is the last one. Let me go quickly back through. It looks like this is the last one. Justin Williams, 4-star wide receiver, Florida commit. Very, very odd visit.
What's weird about this is we haven't seen them go after any more receivers at all.
No.
And Florida State was never like really serious in this recruitment because he was a Gainesville kid and committed pretty quickly when he could.
He could, and they were recruiting him. They were recruiting him pretty hard in the spring and well, maybe not, definitely not as hard as Florida, but they were on him for sure. And it just, nothing ever came of it. So I feel like this is definitely for the show. I say that, but it's like, okay, even if you're a Gainesville kid and you're committed to Florida and you're hearing chirps about Napier and a complete staff overhaul and wipe.
My thing is, he's a Gainesville kid, so whoever comes in, isn't he going to want to go to Florida?
That's definitely an element to it. That's an element to it, but there's got to be at least a little bit of like, okay, what are my options? There's got to be at least a little bit of that, right? I mean, if you have guys
you
Carson
literally
and
have
Caden,
to.
and that's what Blake Alderman said last week on the show. It's like, you have to. You're doing yourself a disservice if you're not doing this. But I don't know how, especially with how full Florida State's wide receiver class is, because I mean, him and Darion are very similar players too. And there was that whole.
So are you? And they're not similar players, but are you bracing for the fact if you lose Jason Lopez?
Possibly.
Right?
Oh, you're saying that Jason and Justin are not similar players, not Darion and
yes. I'm saying Jason.
I was like, okay, yeah. That's a fair point.
Right, but Jason, like, people have been like, yeah, Miami's going to end up getting him, but he also, like, I don't think he's visited Miami, and he's coming to visit Florida State. I know the basketball staff. I know the basketball staff has been in to see him multiple times. They've only been there once. Also, by the way, it would be Texas A&M to have and Florida State would have the third best running back class to Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Just by the way, because they both have 2 commits in the top, like, 10 running backs. So, or 11.
Yeah.
But anyway, that answers that question from before. But yeah, I mean, I just wonder if you're like bracing just in case that happens, like, is this a backup plan? Knowing that if Florida loses their staff, that you can swoop in there and have a good shot. Like, maybe that's it. This is one that I don't want to say it's either way. You probably lean for the show just because it feels out of nowhere, but it's a gray area one more for me just because we need to see what he says after the visit. Like, we could be completely blown out surprised that, oh yeah, I talk to Coach Tim Harris every day and they're definitely still on me and they still want me. Like, we could hear that answer and be like, oh wow, okay, well, I guess they're looking to add another receiver to the class. So it's that was and I have a story coming up, like the 3 surprise visitors that came on this list this morning. After Carson Baker, because Carson Baker got his own story, but it's and it was Aaron Thomas, even though we reported before he was coming, but that visit was in limbo. Justin Williams, and who was the other one? Oh, Lashai Jackson. Those were the 3 that, like, you look through the visit, you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, I think this is a big gray area for me, leaning for the show, but gray area, because you need to look at your options if you're a Florida commit. You don't have a choice.
Yeah. There are a lot of good kids coming on campus this weekend for Florida State. Lots of good 2026 flip targets. A really impressive list of 2027 kids and even a few choice 2028 kids. I mean, we didn't really talk about the 2028s,
but here's a funny thought. So it seemed like after every game so far, there's been a surprise younger commit, 27, 28, right? Right? That's right. There's been like one surprise commit. You're like, oh, okay. And you got to write up a story real quick. But, who do you think that could be?
Batson.
That's a surprise.
It's still a younger commitment. Am I going to have to go through the entire list here?
This is like on par with, picking the Heisman winner because it's never the one with the least odds. It's always the one down at like 25. Like, that's what I'm talking. It's like, pick a random name out of that hat. I don't know who it would be. I have no clue. I just think that would be a fun game.
I'm trying to think of like a name off the top of my head before we go off the air here.
But it can't be like a Caden Henderson. Like, it can't be a top guy. Like, it has to be a what, who? And then you, oh yeah, this kid.
Oh, like a straight up who? Oh, come on. That's not fair. That's not
I know
fair.
It's not a fair game at all. It's just way it's happened a couple times already this season.
It has. Just to wrap up, we didn't really talk about the 2028s, but Ashton Giotto, 4-star defense end, Bulls High School.
Do we call him 2027 yet?
We'll get there eventually. It's going to happen. It's in the cards. Anthony Howard Jr., IMG Academy in 2026. A couple of 4-star offensive linemen. George Selvey III, 2028 kid. There was another guy. Major Green, who's also at IMG Academy. God,
that's a sick name, by the way. That's what I thought. That's a great, that's an all-name team name. Major Green. That's a future all-name team member.
It's pretty good. And of course, Bryson Wright, 4-star wide receiver, Mandarin High School, who is going to be one hell of a football player. He's going to be on campus on Saturday as well. So I think we've covered pretty much everything in terms of this recruiting weekend. Matt, is there any final thoughts that you have before we sign off here?
Not really. Yeah, we did a good job of covering it. I know there was one guy on Twitter when I posted Nuggets on the board at night that sounded weird. That was waiting for our visit preview, and I told him, you guys should know the Warpath comes out at 3 every Friday. If there's anything to preview about the visits upcoming, it'll be here. Yep. And next weekend, I think next weekend is going to be a surprise, pretty big visit weekend with them starting official visits. So we'll have a jam-packed episode next week between recapping all these visits that we just talked about, and then going into the Pitt weekend where you have Jacob Curry, Chris Corbin. I think you're going to have some others show up as well that are going to raise your eyebrow more than we've had in the past, because these are still, it's not nobody games anymore. These are still conference games.
Yep.
By the way, this is the first time I'm mentioning it. I have a, for Pitt week, not to look ahead too much, but it's not a recruit visiting or anything, so don't get your hopes up. But it's my dad went to Pitt, so it's a big game for us, and he got a game ball made with Pitt versus FSU on it. I will be showing that off next week because the winner gets to keep the ball. So that's just something to look forward to. I tweeted it, but it's I'm excited for that. I'm excited for Pitt weekend.
Yeah.
But we have to get through Miami first.
We got to get through Miami first. Lots of exciting stuff coming this weekend. Thank you all so much for watching the Warpath. Always, we'll be back next Friday. Once again, thank you to Dollar Shave Club and Andy Ludicky with My Perfect Franchise for sponsoring the Warpath. Do you want to give? I know we don't really do it on this show, but do you want to give a score prediction for the Miami game?
What did I give on the report? I gave I think I gave like 28-24, right? That's right around the over. I said FSU, 28-24 FSU.
Can I even dare to pick against FSU on an FSU podcast? I don't know. 31-35 Miami. I'm bracing. How
does that affect the recruiting of this game if they lose 31?
Oh God, save that for next
I don't
week.
think a whole lot.
See you next Friday, everybody. And try not to pitchfork me on your way out.